Good afternoon and welcome to round one of the 2017 Maxxis DTRA UK National Flat Track Championship, where 9 of the top 10 from last season's competition line up once again to do battle in this 2017 season. We've got the reigning first-time champion Alan Birtwistle lining up with his newly acquired #1 plate. We've got multi-time British champion Aidan Collins looking to try and get that plate back after conceding it and finishing runner-up in 2016. And here is a special occasion this afternoon in Rye House. We've got 2 of the top performers from the FIM Flattrack Cup, so looking forward to seeing how they get on trying to mix it with the UK's best. So the lineup for the first of the Pro Class heat races here this afternoon, 6 of them will decide the grid positions and qualifiers to the A final. Then there'll be a last chance repechage, the B final. That'll be the last opportunity to try and steal a position on the back of the grid for the A final. In this one then, the first of the Pro Class races, watch out for Toby Hales on the #20 bike, one of the fastest rising talents at senior level at the moment. Took his first win last season, midway through last season, and ended up finishing 4th in the championship. So Toby Hales one to watch off the middle row here, and off the back row, one of the favourites for the 2017 championship, the #90 bike, Aidan Collins. We're used to seeing that saying #1, the multi-time British champion, could only manage the runner-up position in 2016. He finished 2nd here at Rye House last year, and 2nd was his finishing position in the 2016 series. In fact, Collins was the championship leader after the opening 2 rounds of the season, then gradually dropped behind Alan Birtwistle, who was the form man in the second half of the campaign and now wears that #1 plate. Birtwistle with a front row grid slot next time out in the second of the round 1 Pro Class heat races. Collins just settling in then off the outside of the back row. From the front row, we've got Richard Mason, the #98, Mike Hill alongside him, and Sam Hurst completing the front row. Off the middle row, we have Justin Heavens, the rider alongside him I was talking about, Toby Hales, Richard May on the #9 bike, and the '52 Ross Herod. And then the back row that I've already spoken about, Leah Toklove, the #37, George Pickering, the #38, and the #90 bike of Aidan Collins. That's a full look at the lineup then for the opening race of the 2017 season in the Pro Class. Fast start from Mike Hill. It's the #35 who's going to get there first, but he's got pressure either side. And look at the trademark fast start from Aidan Collins. And before the end of the opening lap, Aidan Collins has worked his way through from the back row and hits the front. That's the Collins of old that we didn't see as often as he might have liked last season. But it's Aidan Collins who leads the way from the back row of the grid by the end of the opening lap. Can you believe it? Good races going on for 2nd and 4th places. Sam Hurst under pressure here, gets it wrong going into turn 3, runs up wider than he wants to go. Toby Hales around the outside of Richard Mason, that's for 2nd position. There's now 3 abreast for 5th place, as well as George Pickering tries to find his way through from the back row of the grid. He's not been able to do it as quickly as Aidan Collins, who leads the way, and to pick up the 15 race points from your back row grid slot. What a huge advantage that will be for Collins when we add up the points totals and work out who's going to be on the top positions on the grid for the A final. And surely Aidan Collins will be among those names on the front row of the grid for that final. 3rd position is now the closest race, where Sam Hurst is trying to get the better of Richard Mason. Mason has been defensive all race so far. George Pickering trying to join the front 4 out in front. But as I suggested, 3rd place is the closest battle heading into the final lap. Collins out in front. Hales gaining a bit of ground last lap around, but I don't think he's close enough to strike. 3rd place still with Richard Mason. He's done some good work in this one, taking advantage of his front row grid slot from the pole position, and it's going to be a checkered flag for Aidan Collins from the back row of the grid. Well, what a way to lay down a marker to your rivals. You might have stolen the #1 plate away from me last season, but it's not going to be too easy to pick it up against Aidan Collins again in 2017. Collins very much back on the form that we saw from him in past seasons when he made multiple British titles and multiple championships in the DTRA UK Nationals. Well, a good ride from Toby Hales as well to come through from the middle row around the outside of Richard Mason in a good pass for 2nd position. Mason then had the company of Sam Hurst, but there were no further position changes in the top places, and loads of scraps further down the order in the minor placings, but that's not going to affect things too much in terms of those qualifiers. It's all about trying to finish in the top 3 positions in each of your heat races to try and amass enough points to make it through direct to the A final. As I said previously, there will be a last chance opportunity for the riders to try and join the back of the grid. If they don't manage to amass enough heat points, they'll go through to the B final, and from there they can try and transfer by finishing in the top 2 positions. Now we're lining up for the second of the round 1 heat races in the pro class, and this one should be very interesting indeed. We've got Alan Birtwistle, the reigning title holder, the #1 plate holder, and he goes off the front row of the grid, and he's got to go up against Oliver Brindley, the 2016 Rye House winner on the #24 bike, fresh back from the USA where he's been competing in the American Flat Track Series, and now he's got to work his way through from the back row in the UK. And he's brought the sunshine with him for a glorious day here in Rye House. Will it be a glorious day for Oliver Brindley as he makes his return to the UK Nationals? Alan Birtwistle has taken the whole shot. Alongside him, Richard Roden down into the first turn. Peter Boast is challenging in the mid-pack there for 4th position, and around him comes Oliver Brindley. So Brindley immediately up into 4th place from the back row of the grid. Boast still alongside him, but it's Brindley who makes the move stick and now can go off. You could see him switch from the outside to the inside, back down into turn #1, changing his mind at the last moment and coming through for P3. And will it be P2? Yes, it will. Oliver Brindley making the expected progress through from the back row. Released up into 2nd position, but does he have enough legs to go after and pass Alan Birtwistle, the reigning title holder, who leads the way? 3 abreast in the race for 4th position. Peter Boast looks set to make the move, not quite. Still close from positions 3 down to 6. Gary Birtwistle coming around the outside of Peter Boast and up into 4th place, now makes it 3rd position, ahead of Wilfred de Lestre, one of the 2 FIM Flat Track Cup riders that I was talking about, featuring here today, along with Michael Dijkstra, the other in the programme, and at the moment they're one behind the other in 5th and 6th positions. It's de Lestre ahead of Michael Dijkstra in 5th and 6th places. Peter Boast doing well to dispatch the pair of them, but he's not been able to do too much about Gary Birtwistle, who himself, the #11 bike, has worked through from the middle row. He was alongside Peter Boast off the start line. Well, Brindley has certainly made up a lot of ground, but he's not going to make up quite enough to get the better of Alan Birtwistle. It's Birtwistle who wins it. We've got a last-minute position change on the final 2 turns, side by side between the 2 international riders in the battle for 5th, but it's Wilfred de Lestre who holds on ahead of Michael Dijkstra to take that 5th position. No change up front though. Alan Birtwistle was unlikely to be denied when he had a front row grid slot. He made the start, they were side by side into turn 1, and then Birtwistle roared away to his first victory of the 2017 campaign. But a good ride from Oliver Brindley. He was quickly through into 2nd position. Behind him, the #11, Gary Birtwistle, holding off Peter Boast for the last of the top 3 finishing positions in race #2. That sees us to the end of round 1 in the heat races in the pro class. So a look at the standings after the opening round of heat races here at Rye House for the opening round of the 2017 campaign. And it's the 2 most recent national champions who lead the way on 15 points apiece. Alan Birtwistle and Aidan Collins, each victorious in their opening rides. Collins perhaps more spectacularly from the back row of the grid. Toby Hales and Oliver Brindley, the 2 youngsters, sit on 12 points apiece, and rounding out the top 6, the double-figure scorers completed by Gary Birtwistle and Richard Mason. Behind them, Peter Boast and Sam Hurst on 9 points apiece, George Pickering and Wilfred de Lestre on 8 points apiece, Mike Hill and Michael Dijkstra at the moment rounding out the top 12. It's of course the top 10 positions that are all important to secure direct transfer to the final, and the remainder of the pack will move through towards the B final with a second opportunity to qualify to the main. Round 2 in the pro class, the 3rd race of the day in the pro category. Off the front row of the grid, we'll see on the inside Peter Boast, the #54, former national champion, 9-point scorer with a 4th position finish first time out. Alongside him will be the 67 bike, Justin Heavens, who finished 8th in his opening appearance for 5 race points. On the outside of that front row will be Michael Dijkstra, who was challenging against Wilfred de Lestre, the 2 international riders battling one another first time out. He'll have a better run of things this time around with a front row grid slot. From the middle row here, we've got the #40 on the inside. That's Kai Fort, who we've seen in other classes already well and truly up and in contention. George Pickering on the outside of that middle row. Between them, Richard Roden on the #70 bike. Then from the back row, Sam Hurst, Wilfred de Lestre, Alan Birtwistle, the reigning champion and winner first time out. And the number one immediately getting the better of the other riders off the same row of the grid and cutting to the inside off turn number 2. He's going to come through for 5th position down the back straight. Sam Hurst on the outside of him side by side. Peter Boast losing out on 2nd place as George Pickering comes through. Boast back around the outside. Good ride there from Peter Boast for 2nd place. And we've got a faller in the mid-pack as Boast gets the better of George Pickering and holds on for 2nd position. Alan Birtwistle, though, has gone up to 4th now, ahead of Sam Hurst. And our faller is the 67, Justin Heavens, who clears the circuit in time. We're under yellow flags briefly around turns 1 and 2. The front couple slowed down, the mid-pack didn't, and that bunched things up a little bit closer still. Well, I suggested that the international experience might pay dividends for Michael Dijkstra with a front row grid slot in his 2nd outing, and it is Dijkstra who leads the way ahead of Peter Boast in 2nd, 3rd George Pickering, 4th Alan Birtwistle. One of the 2 round 1 heat winners hasn't been able to make the expected progress here, having had to come through from the back row and against riders with plenty of international experience and class, including former British champion Peter Boast, who's having one of his best rides for some time, up in 2nd position. Alan Birtwistle challenging for 3rd, gets the better of George Pickering now as they head into the final lap. How quickly can he gain on Peter Boast? And can Boast do anything about Dijkstra out in front? Dijkstra running a much wider line than some of the other riders, trying to use the slight mid-track banking here at Rye House on turns 1 and 2. Birtwistle is going to be close to Boast in the run down to the line, but not close enough, and almost runs up the back of Boasty, coming back down into turns 1 and 2. So Alan Birtwistle, after a good race victory first time out from a front row grid slot, can't do as Aidan Collins did first time out and come through from the back row to take a race victory. And that could be important in determining seeding position to the A final later on here today. Birtwistle doing what he needed to do, coming through for a double-figure scoring position from the back row of the grid. That won't have been the finishing position that he wanted. Good racing early on from Peter Boast and George Pickering in the battle for 2nd place, and Boast then taking it from Pickering around the outside, coming off turn 4, back down into turns 1 and 2 across the front of Pickering. Good racing for those places, and then Birtwistle getting the better of Pickering, but just running out of time to gain ground on Peter Boast, who takes 2nd position. So no 2nd race victory for Alan Birtwistle, but can Aidan Collins make it 2 wins out of 2 as he'll line up next time out off the front row for the 4th race of the day in the pro class. Well, this one has one of the most successful riders in this championship of all time, Aidan Collins. Nobody's won more British championships than the number 90. And he's out on track here against Oliver Brindley. Now, Brindley finished in 2nd place first time out, but he had to come through from the back row of the grid. This time around, he's got a middle row grid slot. So on paper, you'd expect the race to be between Collins and Brindley. Brindley, the winner here in Rye House last year. Collins, who finished runner-up behind Brindley in that A final in 2016. They're directly behind one another on the grid. Collins has Gary Birtwistle alongside him and Richard May off the outside of the front row. The middle row is with Oliver Brindley, Leah Toklove alongside him off that middle row. And on the outside, the number 95 into position. Vince Hurst completing that middle row there. Watch for Toby Hells and Richard Mason from the back row. Ross Herod off the back has got off to a poor start. It's Aidan Collins who muscles the others aside to take the race lead. Oliver Brindley straight through up into 3rd place. First he's got to negotiate Gary Birtwistle, then he can go off after Aidan Collins. Well, he sides his way through for 2nd place quite easily. It's Collins, it's Brindley. 3rd place with Gary Birtwistle. They're 3 abreast down into turns 1 and 2. Toby Hales passing 2 riders in one move. Richard May and Vince Hurst both slipping backwards, and now Richard Mason trying to come through up the inside of Richard May as well. That's for 5th position. 5th, 6th and 7th, the closest out on track at the moment as Brindley charges for the inside of Aidan Collins in top spots. Collins just about holding on. Brindley seems to have the pace, cuts through on the inside. Collins tries to repay the compliment around the outside. Brindley loses shape and Collins goes for the cutback. While Collins is the master of staying calm and defending positions, Brindley is the young charger. He's got the momentum and certainly got the speed. He's already tried to rub Collins out of the way coming off turn 4, then picked up, shot across the front of Collins, who cut back to the inside to reclaim the lead. The multi-time British champion looking set to make it 2 wins out of 2. who'll remain the only unbeaten rider after the reigning champion Alan Birtwistle was defeated last time out. Has Brindley got time to make a challenge and take his first race victory of the day? He goes wider this time around turns 1 and 2. He's going to carry his momentum down the back straight. Separate race for third position behind, but the focus is on the battle for top spot. Brindley in the drag race down to the line. Collins wins it, and it's 2 wins out of 2 for Aidan Collins. Oliver Brindley home second. Third remains with Gary Birtwistle. Toby Hales home fourth. Close in the run down to the line for fifth position, but it's Richard Mason who, by the looks of it, just about gets that ahead of Leia Tokloff. There were good races right through the order, but it was hard to take the focus off the race-leading squabble. And, well, Oliver Brindley certainly had the pace, but each time he challenged, particularly on the inside going into turn number 3, that's where he was trying to make his move against Aidan Collins. Collins then just ran slightly wider, maintained his own racing line, wasn't too disturbed by Oliver Brindley on the inside of him, kept on coming, and Collins then goes on to take the race victory. So it's 2 wins out of 2 for Aidan Collins. Alan Birtwistle, the other round 1 heat winner, beaten in his second outing. Toby Hales working his way through the order after a second place finish first time out, but can't get the better of Gary Birtwistle. That's 2 third places now for Gary Birtwistle. And 2 second places for Oliver Brindley as he comes up short in the 4th race of the day, completing the second round of heats in the Pro Class. So off the front row then, it's the 52 Ross Herod. Alongside him, the pre-race favourite Oliver Brindley, yet to take a first race victory of the day. Can he do so here? Alongside them, the number 38 bike of George Pickering, who I was talking about just a moment ago. And then Toby Hales completing the front row. Watch for Aidan Collins off the middle row, the number 90. Collins victorious in each of his opening 2 outings, looking to make it 3 out of 3. Brindley though with a front row grid slot. Pickering's made the fastest start. George Pickering's there first, but Brindley has the inside. Pickering has to back out of it. That gives Toby Hales the momentum in the inside line. Watch for Aidan Collins as well. Challenging for 4th position on the inside, I think that is of Sam Hurst. 6th places with Peter Most at the moment. As they come to the end of the opening lap, Oliver Brindley has broken clear. It's Toby Hales in 2nd, still George Pickering in 3rd. Collins has got 4th place now, getting the better of Sam Hurst. Peter Most locks it up off turn 2. The front 5 have now broken clear. Most though still holding station ahead of the rest of the group as Collins goes off in pursuit of George Pickering. Brindley on his way towards a first race victory of the afternoon. You had to fancy that with a front row grid slot and having worked his way through from the back and the middle rows to 2nd place in each of his opening 2 outings, he'd be able to win his 3rd. The surprise of this race is that Aidan Collins hasn't been able to work his way through the field with quite such alacrity as he did in his opening 2 outings. On the tail of George Pickering for the moment, and battling for 3rd place. This will be crucial in terms of grid slots for the final. Oliver Brindley with a 15-point score here would move on to 39. Collins would also move on to 39 as he currently sits outside of the top 3. And Alan Birtwistle is still to come. Sat a point ahead of Brindley, so would need a race victory to move above Brindley in the seeding order. Here comes Collins with the inside move. Pickering just got it wrong around turns 1 and 2, and Collins swept straight through. Pickering charging hard into turn 3, but Collins has got the move made. Well, what an important last lap that is from Aidan Collins. That could very well decide the top seeding spot for the final. First choice of gate position for the final. It's Aidan Collins then, coming through on George Pickering on the final lap. And by my reckoning, that extra point could be all important because Oliver Brindley with the 15 moves on to 39, and Collins will secure 10 points for getting 3rd place. He'll remain above Oliver Brindley in the heat point standings by just a point. But of course, Alan Birtwistle is still yet to appear. His heat programme matching Aidan Collins in the final round as he goes off the middle row next time out in the 6th and final heat race in the Pro Class. So Brindley takes his first checkered flag with a win in the 5th Pro Class race here this afternoon, ahead of Toby Hales. A creditable ride for him. It went almost unnoticed, but that's the second place for him. And that could be an important ride for him to get potentially onto the front row of the grid as well. That could depend on what happens with Michael Dijkstra here, the number 581, the international rider going off the middle row. On the front row of the grid, Wilfred de Lestra. Alongside him, Kai Fort, Vince Hurst, and the number 37, Leia Toklov. The favourites for this race will be off the middle row. The 5'8" that I've already talked about, Michael Dijkstra, who came into the final round of heats in 4th position in the standings. Alan Birtwistle alongside him. The number 1 bike, of course. I'm so used to calling Aidan Collins as the number 1. That was bound to catch everyone out at some point here today. Richard Mason on the inside of him on that middle row. Then it's Gary Birtwistle off the back row alongside Justin Heavens. Ready to get underway with the last of the Pro Class heat races. Good start from Vince Hurst. Good one as well from the 55, Wilfred de Lestre. Those are the 2 riders to break clear. How quickly can Birtwistle get through? He's up to 2nd place on the inside of Hurst. It'll be less easy for him to get to the front against some of the FIM Flattrack Cup riders, including the current race leader, Wilfred de Lestre, who competed in the FIM Flattrack Cup in 2016. Birtwistle, though, alongside, makes the move down into turn 3. So Birtwistle hits the front. In line now for his 2nd race victory of the day. This would move him top seed through to the final. So this is critical. Birtwistle needs to hold on here for the 15 points to move on to 40. Alongside Aidan Collins, who finished 3rd last time out, to move on to 40, and a point clear of Oliver Brindley, who sits on 39. That's the race in terms of the top seeding positions. What about the lower order and trying to decipher which riders could finish within the top 10? Well, Wilfred de Lestre was outside of the top 10 coming into this final round, but he sits in 2nd place, and at the moment, he's in line for qualification. Just ahead of the 98, Richard Mason. Mason was a top 10 scorer coming into this final round, challenging for 2nd place. We've got an overtake for 5th position, that's Vince Hurst moving backwards. And we've got a faller as well as one of the other riders, I think that's Leia Toklov, was challenging on the inside of Vince Hurst. Hurst locking it up, trying to get back to the inside. Toklov going down in avoidance. Heading now towards the checkered flag, it's going to be Alan Birtwistle, who takes his 2nd race victory of the day to qualify alongside Aidan Collins as top seed on 40. Wilfred de Lestre with 2nd place will also move through to the final, courtesy of a good score there. That's his best result of the day, his 1st double-figure score, in fact, of the day. A good ride as well from Richard Mason. He couldn't find a way through into 2nd place, but a good 3rd position anyway. And then further down the order, Michael Dijkstra, so he will not appear now on the front row of the grid unless some of the top 4 performers decide not to go for that front row grid slot, as he was unable to maintain the form that saw him win last time out in his round 2 heat race, and he drops back further down the order. But in the context of the battles for the top seeding positions, well, Aidan Collins looking good once again in 2017, and no great surprises to see Alan Birtwistle will qualify alongside him as top seed. Oliver Brindley, well, it didn't work out for him really in terms of heat and grid positions, as he misses out on the top seeding space. But to see the top 3 in the standings here today, separated by just 1 point at the end of 3 completed rounds of heat races, suggests we are in for a very lively final indeed when you pitch all 3 of those riders against one another and off the front row. As I suggested, it's the favourites who lead the way in the standings here at Rye House. So coming out onto the track then for the B final. First choices of starting position will go with Gary Birtwistle, Leia Toklov, Vince Hurst and Kai Forts. Then Ross Herod, Richard Roden, Daniel Kafka and Richard May. Justin Heavens, Mike Hill will also feature in this B final. Well, only the top 2 can transfer from this B final and to the A final to join the back of the grids, where provisionally they will be alongside George Pickering and Sam Hurst, the last of the direct qualifiers through the heat stages. It's a last opportunity for these riders to join the grid with the big guns. 3rd and 4th positions are also worth 1 and 2 championship points, but really the main aim is to move through to the A final and try to snaffle the big championship points that are on the line in the main. So Gary Birtwistle with the first gate choice goes for the inside start position. Alongside him on the grid, it's the 95 Vince Hurst, then it's the 37 Leia Toklov, and the outside of the front row is with Kai Forts. On the middle row, the number 46 Daniel Kafka, the number 70 Richard Roden, and the number 52 Ross Herod. Then off the back row of the grid, Mike Hill settling in on the inside, Justin Heavens the number 67 alongside, and Richard May completing the lineup. underway for the B final, where only 2 can transfer to the main. Fast start from Vince Hurst, Gary Birtwistle alongside him. Birtwistle, the favourite for this one, surprisingly didn't make the top 10 in the heats after a poor final heat race. But he is the current race leader. Alongside him, Vince Hurst. Hurst bursting back through. So it's Hurst in front, Birtwistle in second, Toklov in third. 4th position, Richard Roden. 5th, Justin Heavens has made some good progress in the early laps. And in fact, Heavens now diving for the inside and into 4th place. That's an important position, as I said. It's the first of the championship points-paying positions here in Rye House. And Hurst again going for the inside, almost cluttering straight into the back of Lea Toklov. And losing control once again off turn number 2, but how so much speed down the straights, and Heavens has made the move stick. Justin Heavens, who scored only 11 points during the heats, has come alive in the B final. It's going to take quite a lot of work, though, for him to get into the all-important top 2 positions, because Vince Hurst, by following Gary Birtwistle around, is doing enough at the moment, and it's Lea Toklov who'll miss out. As again up the inside comes Justin Heavens for 3rd position. They're still side by side for the race lead as well, but Vince Hurst gets out of control, and Gary Birtwistle once again recaptures the position. It's Heavens ahead of Lea Toklov for 3rd place. Toklov coming under some pressure from the number 70, Richard Roden. In terms of the championship points at the moment, it's Justin Heavens and Lea Toklov who'd miss out on the transfer, but would still get something from their efforts here this afternoon in Rye House. Out in front, meanwhile, Gary Birtwistle set to join Allen and the other 9 in the A final. And alongside him, Vince Hurst, and almost definitely alongside him now, quite literally, going down into turn 3. Hurst makes the move on the inside. These 2 really need to be careful, because if they get it wrong, chasing a position that really doesn't make too much difference, they could open the running for Justin Heavens, who sits 3rd. Heavens has left Lea Toklov in the clutches of Richard Roden. And there's a good race going on for 6th position as well, but that's of little consequence, because 2 riders are going to transfer, and it's Vince Hurst and Gary Birtwistle. Justin Heavens and Lea Toklov missing out, but scoring 1 and 2 championship points for their efforts here this afternoon. It's disappointment for them in some senses. Toklov probably deserved a spot in the final after some good point scores in her debut at pro class level in 2017, having raced in the restricted category in 2016, one of the youth products of this UK Nationals. But having finished 12th in the heat point standings, she was unable to get the better of Vince Hurst in the last chance qualifier, and that's what that race is all about. One shot at glory, trying to make it into the top 2 and through to the main. So there we have it then. Our 2 qualifiers are Gary Birtwistle and Vince Hurst. Lea Toklov and Justin Heavens missing out, but a good ride from Heavens to get ahead of Toklov and through to 3rd, so he scores the larger share of the championship points. And I suppose if you want to look at it this way, at the moment he's the championship leader, Justin Heavens, as the first rider to score championship points in 2017. But it's Vince Hurst who marches on alongside Gary Birtwistle, the pre-race favourite in the B final. So with our 2 transferred riders decided for the final, they're back out for an additional outing, having made it through to the main. The favourites here will be Alan Birtwistle, Aidan Collins and Oliver Brindley, the top performers during the heats. Had a fairly comfortable points buffer behind them coming into this final race. But of course that points scoring during the heat stages only decides seeding position for the final itself. We've got the reigning champion, the number 1, Alan Birtwistle, who's lining up with first starting position choice, and he seems to be deliberating as well to some extent. Is he brave enough to go all the way off the outside with Aidan Collins and Oliver Brindley on the inside of him? He's being encouraged to make his decision. It looks like he's gone for the outside here on the front row. Aidan Collins seems satisfied to slot straight alongside him, and it's unlikely that Oliver Brindley is going to go for the inside, although that could be curse of the commentator. And I think it is. So Brindley, Toby Hales, Aidan Collins and Alan Birtwistle lining up off the front row. It's great to see a couple of products of the youth system lining up off the front row for a main. It's going to be Brindley, Hales, Collins and Birtwistle off the front row. Oliver Brindley may not be featuring in too many rounds this season in the UK because he's set to go back out to the US to continue his development at international level. Toby Hales just settling himself in alongside. The middle row then is going to feature Wilfred de Lestre, Peter Boast, Richard Mason, and finally Michael Dijkstra. And then off the back row, the last chance qualifier, Gary Birtwistle, the number 95, Vince Hurst, Sam Hurst alongside him, and the outside of that back row, the 38, George Pickering. So Collins, the last rider to settle in, and they're now under starters' orders. Last season's winner, Oliver Brindley, starts off the inside, the reigning champion off the outside, but it's Aidan Collins who gets the whole shot. The multi-time national champion leads the way, and Brindley is stuck fighting with Toby Hales on the first two turns over third position. Peter Boast side by side for sixth place against the two FIM riders who are right on his tail. It's Collins from Birtwistle. The famous battle from the 2016 championship in the top two places. Boast has claimed that sixth place, but the front four have well and truly left the pack, and Toby Hales is sticking with the leaders. A 12-lap final, so there's plenty of time for the riders to try and make overtaking manoeuvres. At the moment, though, Oliver Brindley is down in third place and possibly the pre-event favourite here this weekend. Let's see what he can do on the tail of Aidan Collins and Alan Birtwistle. At the moment, it looks like a little bit of daylight is developing between Birtwistle and Brindley, and Collins is pulling away out in front, but we've got a faller on the top turn, and that is going to necessitate a stoppage. That fall involving the number 11, Gary Birtwistle, and one of the FIM riders, I think, as well, was in the mix there. I think it's Wilfred de Lestre who is down on the top turn. From a distance here and obscured by a post, it's difficult to see from race control, but it looked to me as though the number 55 and the number 11, Gary Birtwistle, were the two riders involved in that one. And it's de Lestre who went down pretty heavily there on turns 3 and 4, but great to see that he's back up to his feet and walking away. It does, of course, mean that we are going to require a restaging here of the A final. So with a quarter of the race completed at the time of the stoppage, we'll be coming back up to the start line for a line-out. That means the riders will line up on the outside of the circuit, staggered back towards the inside, in the positions that they held at the time of the stoppage. So Aidan Collins, who was the race leader, is going to be first into position. Alan Birtwistle is right behind him. Oliver Brindley has a second chance to try and gain some ground. We'll get underway with a shorter race, of course. We'll cut the 3 laps off the distance, so there'll only be 9 laps to make an impression now. Brindley getting off the bike, he'll be third in line, settling in behind and slightly inside Alan Birtwistle. And it's an unusual characteristic of flat track racing, this line out. We'll see them all trying to cut their way to the inside and trying to make 1 or 2 opportunistic passes in the run down to the first turn, because of course the rider at the front will be on the outside and the riders further back will have an opportunity to try and force their way up the inside. We'll see how that works out in terms of this final here at Rye House, but it certainly adds a little bit of extra tension to a race that was already looking pretty juicy between Collins, Birtwistle and Brindley. The top 3 from last season here at Rye House are back in 2017. Oliver Brindley starting in third here. Aidan Collins, who managed to get the better of the newly crowned 2016 champion Alan Birtwistle here at Rye House last season, while Collins lining up ahead of him again in 2017. Oliver Brindley, as I said, lining up in third. Fourth place at the time of the stoppage was Toby Hales. He was the 4th qualifier as well. Michael Dijkstra has got off the bike now as well to start some digging, but he's out of position as far as I can tell, because Peter Boast was ahead of him at the time of the stoppage, the number 54. So it was a nice try from our international friend, and I'm sure he'll claim that they don't do that in the FIM Flattrack Cup, which of course is true. But he now lines up behind Peter Boast, the number 54. Boasty up in 6th position behind Richard Mason, who held 5th at the time of the stoppage. Boast was having a good fight actually with those two FIM Flattrack Cup riders, both Dijkstra and de Lestre. Not sure whether we have a cause of the stoppage there as to whether the 55 is going to be straight back where he was at the time of the stoppage. So he and Gary Birtwistle will be off the back positions. As they were by the time we stopped, of course, because they were the two riders involved. Here we go then. It's an unusual situation here. We've got a line out with a quarter of the race already complete. A quarter race distance will be going from here on in. 9 laps to decide the winner of the opening round of the 2017 season here at Rye House. Oliver Brindley moving forward before we even got underway, but he can't take advantage of it because Alan Birtwistle covers him off. Aidan Collins has made the break while those two are focused on one another. Peter Boast is the rider who's really missed out at the restart. He's dropped 3 positions compared to where he was off the line. It's Collins from Birtwistle, from Brindley in third. Toby Howes right on the tail of Brindley in third position. 5th place is with Richard Mason. You've got to feel sorry for Peter Boast because he was caught napping at the restart, and he is now well down the order in 10th position. 6th place is the most closely fought after at the moment. Sam Hurst trying to get the better of Michael Dijkstra. He's going to go up the inside. That's where the race is for the moment. 6th and 7th places. Dijkstra running wide. Hurst has the inside. Hurst not quite alongside, and Dijkstra will hold on. Hurst now locking up off turn number 2, will come under some pressure from George Pickering. 2 places further back than that, it's Peter Boast. 2nd and 3rd places, the closest riders up front. Oliver Brindley trying something different, goes wider on turn 2, looks over his shoulder because he realises things are going wrong. In that battle further down the order, Peter Boast is struggling to recover places. He's got Gary Birtwistle for company here. Well, the final was looking so good for Boasty, until the stoppage and restaging, where it's all turned out somewhat worse for the veteran former champion. But no such disappointment for multi-time British champion Aidan Collins, who leads the way ahead of Alan Birtwistle, the reigning champion, in 2nd. 3rd place with Oliver Brindley. Surprised that Brindley hasn't been able to match the top 2. He was beaten by them during the heats. He's not been able to take advantage of the restart, and if anything, he's further behind now than he was in the initial running, and he's starting to come under some pressure from Toby Hales as well. Oh, Peter Boast has gone down. Well, that just compounds a disastrous final for Peter Boast. He missed out in the early stages of the restart, dropped well back, we're under yellow flags, the race continuing around him. So Sam Hurst's move on George Pickering up the inside, coming as it does around about the mark of the yellow flags. I think he got the move made before they went into yellow flag territory. Boasty now moving off the circuit. Aidan Collins may have had a second thought about that because Boast was still on the track when Collins got to turn 2. But it's going to be Aidan Collins to become the first winner of the 2017 season, and Aidan Collins is back in business as he wins at round 1 of this 2017 season and puts his name back in the number 1 spot by beating the reigning champion. Well, the top 3, predicted top 3 ahead of today's event, were the top 3 in the end. But it's Aidan Collins who comes up with the race win, and he will now have the lap of honour with the checkers. On the evidence of what we saw last season, you would have expected Alan Birtwistle to be the favourite here today. Oliver Brindley, of course, also was a match for Birtwistle in the early stages of last season before he got injured. Brindley, I am aware, is racing with a bit of an injury in 2017 as well, so that may have hampered his performance here today. But that's not to take anything away from Aidan Collins, who came out in his first ride and stormed from the back row of the grid to hit the front, and now on his lap of honour, having really done the job here this afternoon. 2 race victories in 3 during the heats, and victory when it mattered most in the final. So often over the course of the last 7 or so seasons that Aidan Collins has been a consistent winner. He's been able to make the break from the starts, and that's where he's done a lot of the damage during his flat track career, and he did exactly that off the front row in the initial running. Collins making a burst away from the start line and leading Alan Birtwistle and Oliver Brindley down to the first turn, and the same in the restart. Brindley and Birtwistle were absolutely caught napping. To be honest, Birtwistle was more concerned looking over his shoulder at Brindley, who'd managed to sneak forward off 3rd on the restart without really being checked on. as Brindley then moved up to try and position himself alongside Birtwistle, but it didn't work out for him, and in fact, if anything, it held back his progress because he got to turn 1 at the same time as Alan Birtwistle. Birtwistle commanded the inside line cut across the front of him, and by then Aidan Collins was well gone, and there was no overtaking from there in the top positions, with Aidan Collins coming out victorious, Alan Birtwistle in second, Oliver Brindley in third, and another creditable ride for Toby Hales, who starts his 2017 season with 4th position, and that could very well be a good result in the context of challenging for a podium in the 2017 championship, because we expect that Oliver Brindley may well not feature in all of the rounds this season, putting the emphasis on Alan Birtwistle and Aidan Collins as the championship favourites. Well, Aidan Collins, 2 race victories out of 3 in the heats, top seed to the final, fast start in the final, 2 fast starts in the final. It was back to business as usual for you today.
Back to business, I don't know about that. I was actually struggling a little bit prior to the final, just with the bike setup. It's a brand new 2017 CRF 450R, so a bit of a learning curve for me today, first proper racing, and yeah, I just gambled with my gearing. I just actually added 2 teeth on. I hope them boys aren't seeing 2 teeth on the rear, and yeah, it was hooking up like a dream, and mega to ride in the final end. Yeah, awesome.
Any doubts as to whether you'd be able to challenge Alan this season after obviously being beaten by him last year were dispelled right from your opening race, because through from the back row of the grid within a lap or so there, and then on to a comfortable checkered flag. A great way to start the season.
Yeah, no, it's a good start. I mean, it's early days and it's a long series, and you know, there's probably 6 of us what can win this trophy. So you know, every year it gets harder and more professional, and everybody steps it up and everything. So yeah, I'm getting another year older, and I've still got the enthusiasm. So as long as I can get in the top 3 every event. Not sure about the TT. That's one. I need to go back to school on the TT event with the jump and everything. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be tough, but good start, mega.
Well, you can learn the TT once you've retired. In the meanwhile, of course, thinking about today in the context of the series overall, last season, the opening couple of rounds, you were able to beat Alan, but then Alan kicked on towards the second half of the season. You've shown today that you're still capable of living with his pace.
Yeah, obviously Oliver and Toby Hales stepped it up, and George's Pickering's has stepped it up. But yeah, the main guys really is Alan. He believes in himself now, whereas before I don't think he quite did believe in himself. But now he does believe in himself. He's on the gas. Ollie's like, you know, mega fast. Just a little bit of youthful exuberance kind of spoils him a little bit now and again. But all this time will come, and I'm just trying to make the most of being an old boy in the races now.
Congratulations on your efforts today.
Cheers, Alex. Cheers, guys. Ciao.
So the reigning champion, the defence of your crown in 2017, and like the start of last year, beaten by Aidan today.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be tough at Rye House here. Aidan generally goes pretty good here. Tends to get pretty dry later in the day, and that suits his style, and I like a bit of moisture. But I was on his tail there, so I was quite happy with the performance, really.
The restart didn't really work in your favour. You were fighting more with Ollie, I think, on the first lap or so there, and then Aidan was able to escape away. Yeah,
I kind of blew the start, to be honest, and then I was on the back foot then. I managed to, after a couple of laps, I got into a rhythm and managed to wind it up and get on his tail, but I just couldn't quite sort of keep me composure enough to sort of make a pass, so yeah.
The second heat race, right on the last lap there, and a battle for third position. That was an important point in the end because it gave you seeding advantage for the final. A good heat programme, and to come out top during the heats, that's some consolation, even though you aren't walking away winner today.
Yeah, definitely. You got to, at this level we've got now, like having first pick on the grid for the final is crucial. So you got to treat every heat like it's a final to get that best start position. So yeah, happy with my consistency, and get second is pretty good. I'm up there, so I've just got to put it one better next time.
And of course, with that in mind, it was in the second half of last season that you really started to dominate the championship. So you're well aware that there are plenty of rounds to make back 1 or 2 points on Aidan that he's claimed today.
Yeah, and like Aidan says, TT's not his strong point. There's a couple of tracks there that suit my style TT. I've come from motocross, so hopefully I can do the same as I did last year and win it.
Well, congratulations today, and best of luck for the remainder of the season.
Thanks very much.
Well, fresh back from the USA to race with us today, and I suppose it was good practice for your return there, because the level really has got pretty difficult over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's picking up. Every year, like, I think it's my chance, but it just gets tougher, and there's younger lads coming up like Toby, and like obviously Aiden's got the experience. Alan's he's an experienced motocrosser and motorcyclist, so yeah. But I've just come back from America and riding clay half miles a lot, and it's different, but I've had to adapt today, so yeah.
I mentioned the USA, and it obviously in jest a little bit, because it is a completely different situation to here, and I know you've got mile circuits coming up now in the rest of your programme. Doesn't really compare to a short track here at Rye House, but they gave you a good run for your money, and anyone who thought you were going to come here and breeze it, well, you had a hard time.
That's it, yeah. You never come and expect to win. You can always come and have a good fight, which I like racing, so I'll always enjoy having a scrap with someone. So, yeah.
It took you until your third heat race to take a first race victory. I think that was mainly because of the way the draw panned out and the other riders you were against in their starting positions. But was there a moment where you thought, the restart in particular, where you were edging forward there before we got underway, you thought maybe you could challenge for a top 2 finish?
Yeah, I totally messed that up. I didn't realise I was stepped forward, and the last minute I started to edge back, and then the green light come up. Screwed it a little bit, but yeah. Still, I'm stuck with Alan, and yeah, so.
Done? Yeah.